My children changed the locks while I was learning to walk again. I discovered it when the brass key to my own front door stopped halfway inside the lock. I tried it again, then a third time. The key had opened that door for 32 years. Marian had tied a blue ribbon around it on the day we bought the duplex and written one sentence on the tag: one door for us, one door to keep us free. The ribbon was faded now, and the writing had softened where my thumb had touched it thousands of times. But the key had not changed. The lock had, through the front window. I could see a charcoal-colored wall where my bedroom had once been pale green. Marian's dresser was gone. In its place stood a glass desk, 2 computer monitors, and a polished sign bearing my daughter's name. Dana Riley. Luxury property advisor. I knocked. My daughter opened the door 6 inches and stared first at me, then at the walker beside me. "Dad," she said, "you weren't supposed to come here. I live here." Dana looked over her shoulder. My son Trevor appeared behind her, wearing slippers and holding a blue ceramic mug from my kitchen. "The rehabilitation center released you already?" he asked. "My discharge was this morning." Dana stepped onto the porch and pulled the door almost closed behind her. We talked to the discharge coordinator. Assisted living would be much safer. My doctor cleared me to come home. "Dad, the house isn't ready for you anymore." I looked past her through the narrow opening. The room where Marian and I had slept for 28 years now had gray shelving, framed property photographs, and a printer where her dressing table had stood. My bed was gone. The family photographs were gone. Even the small wooden chair where Marian tied her shoes every morning had disappeared. "Where are my things?" I asked. Trevor took a drink from my mug. "Storage. Everything is safe." "Which storage?" "A secure one." Dana placed a hand on my arm. Using the gentle pressure people use when they want control to resemble comfort. "The property is in the family trust. We're just beginning the transition a little earlier." I looked down at the brass key that no longer opened my own door. Then I smiled, not because she was right, because she had just admitted exactly what she believed the trust allowed her to do. The medical transport driver was still waiting at the curb. Dana noticed him watching and lowered her voice. "We can take you to Brookhaven this afternoon," Kyle already called. "They have a furnished room available, and you would not have to worry about stairs or meals." "You arranged a room." "We arranged an option. Before speaking to me, we have been speaking to you for weeks. You just have not accepted how much help you need." 7 weeks earlier, I had entered rehabilitation after hip surgery. I was 75, not invincible, and the first days had taught me humility, one painful step at a time. But I was not confused. I handled my own accounts, spoke with my doctors, and followed every therapy plan they gave me. By the 4th week, I could move safely with a walker. By the 6th, I could manage stairs with a rail. Dr. Amina Ross had approved my return home with a short list of adjustments: a grab bar near the shower, a raised seat, clear walking paths. Nothing in that plan required assisted living. Yet Dana stood between me and my door as though a room at Brookhaven had already become a family decision. "Give me the new key," I said. Trevor's posture changed behind her. "We cannot do that until we know you will be safe," he said. "You changed every lock." The old system was unreliable. It worked when I left. Dana glanced toward the driver again. "This is not the place to argue. It is my front porch." For a moment, none of us spoke. My hip had begun to ache from standing, and the rubber tips of the walker pressed unevenly against the old porch boards. Trevor saw me shift my weight. The satisfaction that crossed his face was small, but I saw it. My physical discomfort supported the story they had already chosen. I could have pushed past Dana. I could have called the police and demanded that someone force the door open. Instead, I stepped back. "I need my medication bag and the discharge folder. We packed everything for Brookhaven," Dana said. "They are in the transport van." Her mouth tightened. "Then where are you going?" Somewhere I can sit down. Dana mistook that answer for surrender. She offered to call the assisted living facility again. I told her not to make any more decisions on my behalf. Then returned to the van with the blue ribboned key in my pocket. I did not look back until the driver pulled away. Trevor had opened the door fully. Behind him, I could see cardboard boxes stacked along the hall and a contractor's measuring level leaning against the wall. Dana stood on the porch with her phone already raised to her ear. They had not been watching my home. They had been converting it. Marion had been the one who wanted a duplex. When we began searching for a house, I wanted a small, single-family place with a yard. She kept bringing me listings with 2 front doors. I complained about becoming a landlord. She asked whether I preferred becoming dependent on 1 paycheck and 1 mortgage payment. 1 unit gives us a home, she said. The other gives us room to breathe. We bought the Moss Street duplex when Dana was 17 and Trevor was 13. It needed roof work, the upstairs plumbing groaned, and Unit B smelled like wallpaper paste for the first 3 months. Marion loved it immediately. She managed the tenant ledger at the kitchen table. I handled repairs through the small property management company I later built, Moss Property Services. Rent from Unit B helped pay the mortgage when business slowed, covered braces and college bills, and kept us steady during Marion's hospital treatments years later. It allowed us to retire without asking Dana or Trevor to support us. The house was never a trophy waiting at the end of our lives. It was the reason our lives remained ours. During the year, my management company lost 2 major clients. The rent from Unit B made the mortgage payment. When Dana received her college acceptance, Marion used 6 months of saved rental income for the deposit. When Trevor broke his arm and I spent more time at the hospital than at work, the 2nd unit kept the utility bills from becoming another emergency. Years later, during Marion's treatment, Dana offered to help with money. Marion thanked her and refused. After our daughter left, she opened the old rent ledger and showed me that the next 3 months of expenses were already covered. "This is why we bought 2 doors," she said. She never described the duplex as something our children were waiting to receive. If either of them mentioned inheritance, Marion corrected the language. "A house becomes a family home because people are welcomed into it," she once told Trevor. "Not because someone waits long enough to inherit it." That belief was why the blue ribbon mattered. It did not mark an expensive key. It marked the first home no employer, bank, or adult child could use to decide where we belonged. 17 years ago, Sylvia Bennett moved into Unit B. She paid on time, grew tomatoes along the side fence, and brought Marion soup during chemotherapy. After Marion died 4 years ago, Sylvia still placed a small bunch of flowers by our door every year on her birthday. I continued living in Unit A and renting Unit B. The arrangement required no help from my children. The duplex belonged to the Moss Family Revocable Living Trust. Marion and I had created it to simplify management during our lives and transfer the property after both of us were gone. After her death, I became the sole trustee and lifetime beneficiary. I retained the authority to sell, lease, mortgage, amend, or revoke the trust. Dana and Trevor were named as equal beneficiaries after my death. I had told them, "The duplex is in the family trust. One day, it will belong to both of you." I did not think I needed to explain the difference between one day and right now. Before my surgery, Dana and Trevor offered to stay in Unit A while I recovered. Their concerns seemed reasonable. They would collect my mail, contact repair workers if anything failed, and help Sylvia with emergencies. Because I had managed property for most of my life, I did not rely on a family handshake. Naomi Feld, my elder law attorney, prepared a temporary caretaker occupancy agreement. Dana complained that legal papers made the arrangement feel unfriendly. Trevor joked that I was treating my own children like short-term tenants. Both of them signed anyway. The agreement permitted them to use the living room and spare bedroom during my 7 weeks of rehabilitation. Their right to occupy Unit A ended when I was discharged. They could not change the locks, renovate rooms, move my belongings, collect Sylvia's rent, or claim any ownership interest. I had watched them initial every page. Donna paused at the restriction on alterations. "What if the house needs fresh paint while you are gone?" she asked. "Then call me." Trevor tapped the paragraph concerning rent. "If Sylvia has a problem, should she not be able to pay one of us? She already has payment instructions. You are there to report emergencies, not become the landlord." They both nodded. There had been no uncertainty about the limits. Dana even photographed the signed agreement for her records. Trevor joked that if either of them violated it, I would probably charge my own children a late fee. I laughed with him. The memory felt different after seeing my bedroom turned into Dana's office. During rehabilitation, Dana called daily for the first 2 weeks. She asked about my pain, my therapy, and the expected discharge date. Trevor sent photographs of small repairs, a loose gutter, a cracked garage hinge, a stain beneath the kitchen sink. Then the questions changed. Donna asked whether I had considered living somewhere with full-time staff. Trevor asked what the duplex might be worth after renovation. When I said I intended to return home, they both told me not to rush. I mistook delay for concern. The transport driver took me to the office of Marcus Bell, the man who had managed dozens of properties for me before I retired. Marcus occupied the ground floor of a newer building with an accessible entrance. When he saw the walker, he came outside with a chair before asking what had happened. I placed the brass key in his palm. "It no longer opens Unit A." He looked at the ribbon, then at me. "Did you authorize a lock change?" "No." "Did they give you a replacement?" "They offered me assisted living." Marcus took me into his office and called Naomi. She arrived within an hour carrying the trust file and a copy of the caretaker agreement. I told her about the new locks, Dana's office, Trevor's boxes, and the room they had arranged at Brookhaven. Naomi listened without interrupting. Then she asked the question I had avoided. "Where will you stay tonight?" "Not in assisted living." Marcus knew of a furnished apartment in one of the buildings he managed. It had an elevator, a walk-in shower, and month-to-month availability. I agreed to stay there temporarily. "Temporarily matters," Naomi said. "You are not abandoning your residence, and you are not consenting to their occupancy. But you also should not change the locks back while their possession is being addressed. We document everything and follow the notice process. They violated the agreement." "Yes, that strengthens your position. It does not give us permission to ignore the law ourselves." She reviewed the signed restrictions one by one. Their right to occupy ended upon my discharge. The lock change was prohibited. The renovations were prohibited. Moving my belongings was prohibited. Collecting rent was prohibited. "Changing the lock can keep out a key," Naomi said. "It cannot rewrite a deed." I handed her my discharge folder. Tucked behind the mobility plan was a note from the center's coordinator asking me to confirm my transfer destination. I had assumed it was routine until I saw the name Brookhaven typed beneath it. Naomi called the coordinator with me, present. The woman sounded surprised to hear that I had gone to Marcus's office. "Your daughter told us Unit A was under construction and would not be available," she said. She also said the family and medical team agreed that assisted living was the safest discharge plan. "Did Dr. Ross say that?" I asked. There was a pause. "The information came through your daughter." Naomi requested copies of every communication Dana had sent concerning my discharge. When the call ended, I looked at the mobility plan signed by Dr. Ross. "Return home with minor accessibility modifications." Dana had taken her own preference, placed it in the mouth of my medical team, and used it to make my home appear unavailable. They did not decide I could not return because the house was unsafe. They made the house unavailable because they had decided I should not return. Naomi opened the trust document. "Tell me exactly what Dana said at the door." She said the property was in the family trust and they were beginning the transition earlier. And Trevor, he said they could not give me a key until they knew I would be safe. Naomi read the operative provisions aloud. The trust was revocable. I was its creator, sole trustee, and lifetime beneficiary. I alone could direct a sale, approve a loan, collect rent, appoint an agent, or change the beneficiaries. Dana and Trevor were named only in the section governing distribution after my death. A future inheritance is an expectation, not a present ownership interest, she said. Being named in this document gives them no authority to occupy the property against your wishes, redirect rent, borrow against the equity, or decide where you will live. Then, why would Dana speak as though the transfer had begun? Because the phrase family trust sounds persuasive to anyone who has not read the trust. Naomi placed the document beside the caretaker agreement. Their temporary right to stay ended when you were discharged. We will terminate possession through proper notice, document the alterations, and protect the title. You will not force the door, discard their property, or give them an opportunity to portray you as unstable. I spent 30 years managing rentals. I know the process. Good. Then use that experience even though the occupants are your children. Naomi turned several pages, then stopped. Your children may be confusing a future inheritance with a present ownership interest, or they may be hoping everyone else will confuse it for them, which is worse. We will find out when they receive the documents. My children believed the trust had already made them owners. Naomi turned to the first page and showed me the line they had ignored. Frederick Moss, sole trustee during his lifetime. The furnished apartment Marcus found for me was 6 miles from the duplex, and close enough to see the same line of hills from the bedroom window. That similarity made it worse. The apartment was clean, quiet, and designed for someone using a walker. The shower had a bench. The hallways were wide. The kitchen shelves could be reached without bending. Nothing about it was unpleasant. It simply was not mine. My first night there, I placed Marian's brass key on the bedside table beside my medication. The blue ribbon formed a loose circle around a key that opened nothing in the building. Every time I woke, I saw it beneath the lamp and remembered Dana standing between me and my own bedroom. By breakfast, she had begun telling the family a different version of what happened. My sister called to ask whether I liked Brookhaven. A cousin sent a message congratulating me on making the responsible choice. Dana had written to them that my rehabilitation team recommended assisted living, and that I had agreed to try it while she and Trevor prepared the duplex for its next stage. I did not correct every message. Naomi told me to preserve them. Let Dana establish her version in writing, she said. Facts do not become weaker because a lie arrives first. The first fact came from Dr. Amina Ross. She met me in a consultation room at the rehabilitation center the following morning. I brought Naomi and my discharge plan. Dr. Ross brought clinical notes from my final mobility assessment. Was assisted living your recommendation? Naomi asked. No, Dr. Ross said. Mr. Moss demonstrated the ability to transfer independently, manage medication, use stairs with a rail, and complete basic daily tasks with temporary mobility support. She reviewed the adjustments she had recommended for Unit A. 2 grab bars, a raised toilet seat, a shower chair, and removal of loose rugs from the hallway. Wood renovations to his bedroom have been necessary, not beyond keeping a clear path for the walker. Did you tell Dana Riley that her father should not return home? Dr. Ross shook her head. Assisted living was presented as a family preference, not a medical necessity. The center's records included 2 emails from Dana. In the first, she said Unit A was undergoing necessary construction and had no safe bedroom. In the second, she wrote that the medical team agreed I should not return home. Dr. Ross read that sentence twice. No member of my team authorized her to say this. She prepared a signed clarification confirming that I was medically capable of independent living with minor accessibility adjustments. The letter did not decide where I should live. That decision had always been mine. It simply removed the medical authority Dana had borrowed without permission. When I returned to the apartment, I found a gift basket outside the door. Dana had sent tea, crackers, a blanket, and a brochure from Brookhaven. The card said she hoped I would soon understand that accepting help was not the same as losing independence. She had taken my house, then sent me a blanket to make the loss more comfortable. I photographed the card and gave it to Naomi. Marcus came that afternoon with the corporate records for Moss Property Services. I had kept the company active after retirement, though it handled only a few legacy accounts. Its insurance, license, bank account, and record systems were current. As sole trustee, I signed a resolution appointing Marcus as the authorized managing agent for the duplex. The appointment gave him a clear role. He could communicate with the tenant, preserve rental records, inspect the property with proper notice, document damage, coordinate approved repairs, and serve occupancy notices prepared by Naomi. It did not allow him to throw my children's belongings onto the sidewalk or change the locks around them. I want this handled the way we would handle any disputed occupancy, I said. Marcus looked at the walker beside my chair. Most landlords would be less patient after being locked out. Most landlords are not trying to preserve the possibility that their children may one day understand what they did. He did not tell me whether he thought that possibility was realistic. His first call was to Sylvia Bennett. She answered from Unit B and lowered her voice as soon as she heard my name. "Frederick, are you all right? Trevor told me you had been placed in a facility. I was discharged. I am staying elsewhere temporarily. Did you sell the duplex?" "No." There was a long exhale on the line. 3 weeks earlier, Trevor had emailed Sylvia new payment instructions. He said he and Dana had assumed management of the family property and directed her to send rent to an account labeled Moss Family Property Account. The name sounded connected to the trust. It was not. Marcus checked the routing information. The account belonged to Trevor's construction business. Sylvia had refused to use it. "Marion taught me to check before changing where rent goes," she said. "They did not ask me to pay the family trust, they asked me to pay Trevor." She had kept the email, the attached instructions, and 2 text messages in which Trevor called himself the new owner. After he became more aggressive, she held the rent rather than risk paying the wrong person. Marcus arranged for the money to be placed in a controlled escrow account, pending confirmation of the authorized payment system. No legitimate rent had reached Trevor. That did not make his attempt less serious. Sylvia had preserved another message as well. Trevor told her the rent would be reviewed after the renovation because she was paying far below market value. Dana later sent a more polished email describing Unit B as part of a future luxury property repositioning. She offered Sylvia an early move-out arrangement, without mentioning that neither she nor Trevor had authority to change the lease. "Did either of them tell you I approved this?" I asked. "Trevor said you were no longer involved in management. Dana said the family had reached a transition agreement. There was no agreement." "I know," Sylvia said. "Marion would never have removed me through an email written like a sales brochure. She was not only protecting my rental income. She was protecting the home she had occupied for 17 years from 2 people who already viewed both units as raw material for their businesses. Marcus sent Dana and Trevor written notice of his appointment, confirmed the proper rent process with Sylvia, and instructed them not to make further alterations. He also delivered notice of an inspection under the caretaker agreement and applicable property rules. Dana called me within 12 minutes. "Why is Marcus interfering with the house?" "He is managing the duplex. Trevor and I are already managing it. No owner, trustee, or authorized agent appointed either of you." We are beneficiaries. After my death, her voice became softer, which was when Dana was most determined. Dad, this hostility is exactly why we were concerned about you returning alone. You are treating your own children like trespassers. You signed an agreement that ended when I was discharged. We have invested money in that property. You were prohibited from altering it. The house was deteriorating. My bedroom did not deteriorate into your office. She ended the call by saying Naomi was manipulating me. Marcus conducted the inspection 2 days later with Dana, Trevor, and a neutral inventory clerk present. I did not attend. My hip was improving. But Naomi wanted the record to show that I had not used the inspection to provoke a confrontation. The photographs arrived that evening. Marcus had documented the inspection room by room, using the old property inventory as a reference. He also preserved footage from the exterior security camera covering the shared entrance. The recordings showed movers carrying my bed, Marion's dresser, and labeled archive boxes out of Unit A less than 2 weeks after my surgery. Another recording showed Trevor directing a locksmith to replace both exterior cylinders. The work had not been an emergency response to a failed lock. Trevor had arrived with new hardware, company tools, and a printed list. Dana stood beside him while the locksmith tested the replacement keys. Later footage showed Dana escorting 2 clients into my bedroom office while I was still in rehabilitation. Trevor's crew used the garage as a delivery point for materials from jobs unrelated to the duplex. My children had described themselves as caretakers. The camera showed them behaving like owners from the moment they believed I was too far away to object. My bed had been dismantled and removed. Dana's office occupied the bedroom. The pale green walls Marion chose had been painted charcoal, and holes had been drilled for shelves and display lighting. My study held Trevor's project schedules, business files, and equipment catalogs. The garage contained tile, flooring samples, power tools, and materials for his construction company. They had removed the old interior doors and stacked them uncovered beside the driveway. Rain had warped 2 of them. Most of my clothing, books, photographs, and Marion's possessions had been moved to a storage facility. Dana finally provided the address after Marcus documented the empty rooms. One photograph showed Marion's dresser inside the unit with a deep split running through the lower drawer where it had been strapped incorrectly. I had repaired that dresser twice during our marriage. The wood was not valuable. The small burn near the back came from the iron Marion used on our first anniversary. No restoration invoice could replace the history my children had treated as freight. Trevor attended the inspection with a folder of expenses. He argued that the alterations had increased the property's value and presented Marcus with an invoice from his own construction company. The total was $96,400. It included painting Dana's office, flooring for the garage, moving and storage fees, design consultation, project management, and charges for work that had not yet begun. Trevor expected the family trust to reimburse his business. Marcus returned the invoice without approving it. "You performed work the agreement prohibited," he said. "The trust may seek restoration costs from you. You do not get to bill the owner for violating his instructions." Trevor sent me a photograph of the invoice with one message. "You always said this house would belong to us. I am protecting what is already half mine." I forwarded it to Naomi. "He has given us motive and valuation in the same text," she said. The next document came from someone my children had invited into their plan. A loan officer called Moss Property Services asking when the trustee would be available to complete identity verification for a proposed equity loan. Marcus transferred the call to Naomi. Dana and Trevor had requested a preliminary loan of $420,000 against the duplex. Their application described the funds as a family property transition reserve. The attached budget directed money toward renovation, expansion of Dana's real estate office, and repayment of obligations owed by Trevor's company. The duplex had been appraised at approximately $1,600,000, with more than $1 million in equity. The lender had not approved or funded anything. The title review showed that the Moss Family Revocable Living Trust owned the property and that my signature as trustee was required. Dana had supplied a beneficiary summary showing that the property would eventually be divided equally between her and Trevor. She had not supplied any document granting them present authority to borrow against it. The loan officer wanted my signature. He did not receive it. Naomi placed a title alert on the duplex and sent written notice that no financing, lien, or ownership change could proceed without verified authorization from me. The lender suspended the file. The loan officer provided a copy of the preliminary application and confirmed that no money had been released. Naomi asked him to preserve the appraisal, correspondence, and proposed budget. We did not accuse the lender of wrongdoing. Its title review had worked exactly as it should have. What mattered was what my children intended to do if the review had been less careful. Trevor's debt appeared in the budget as business stabilization. Dana's office expansion appeared as property modernization. Neither item benefited the trust, yet both were wrapped in language suggesting a necessary transition for my care. They had turned my surgery into the business case for borrowing against my house. That evening, both of my children called together. Trevor spoke first. We were going to explain the financing before or after you asked me to sign. It would improve the property and solve several family problems at once. Your business debt is not a family property problem, Dana interrupted. No one is stealing from you? The equity is sitting unused while Trevor's company is under pressure and the house needs modernization. The equity is mine to leave unused. That is selfish. The word settled between us. For 32 years, rent from that duplex had helped educate them, shelter them, and keep their parents independent. Now my refusal to borrow against it for their businesses had become selfishness. Naomi had advised me that anger would make them more cautious. Agreement would make them reveal how far they intended to go. I let the silence continue, then said, perhaps assisted living would be easier for a while. Dana's tone changed immediately. That is all we have been trying to help you see. I need time. Of course. No one is pressuring you. Trevor asked whether I would be willing to attend a family gathering at the duplex once I felt stronger. I said he could send the information. Within days, the messages to relatives became more confident. Dana wrote that I had accepted a safer living arrangement. Trevor told a cousin he was overseeing the property transition. Photographs appeared online showing Dana's desk, Trevor's renovation samples, and a newly polished front door with no mention of the owner whose key no longer fitted. They believed I had abandoned the fight because I stopped correcting them. I had not abandoned anything. Dr. Ross had established that I could live independently. Sylvia had preserved the rent diversion request. Marcus had documented the alterations and the damaged property. Trevor had submitted his own unauthorized invoice. The lender had preserved the attempted refinance file. My children were creating the evidence faster than we could organize it. Then Dana sent me an invitation to a housewarming party in the home she had locked me out of. At the bottom, beneath the words Moss House. The next chapter, she had listed me as the guest of honor. The invitation called my children's takeover a housewarming, Moss House. The next chapter appeared across the front in Dana's preferred gold lettering. Beneath it was a photograph of the duplex taken from an angle that showed both front doors but none of the exterior security cameras. The program promised a property presentation, a renovation preview, and an announcement about the future of the Moss family home. Name appeared at the bottom, guest of honor, Frederick Moss. It did not say owner. Dana called the morning after the invitation arrived. I hope you are not upset by the word housewarming, she said. It is really more of a family transition event. A transition to what? a more useful arrangement. Trevor will explain the renovation plan, and I will talk about how we can manage the property going forward. Will I be speaking? Her hesitation was brief. Only if you feel strong enough. I thought you might say something about trusting the next generation. Did you write it for me? I made a few notes. I can send them. She did within minutes. The proposed remark said I had chosen a supportive living environment and voluntarily handed management of the duplex to my children. They thanked Dana for modernizing Unit A and Trevor for protecting the property during my recovery. The final sentence said, I looked forward to seeing them unlock the home's full value. There was no mention of the key that no longer worked. Before I could answer, relatives began calling about the announcement Dana planned to make. One aunt believed I had signed the duplex over in exchange for assisted living expenses. A former employee of mine asked whether Dana was now the person to contact about Unit B. A neighbor wanted to know why Trevor's company trucks were using the garage. Each person had received a slightly different explanation, but all of them ended in the same place. I had become too frail to manage the property. My children had stepped in, and the family trust made the arrangement natural. No one had been told that I was living independently in Marcus's apartment. No one had seen Dr. Ross's letter. No one knew the loan had been suspended because I had never authorized it. Dana was not merely decorating the house for a party. She was building a room full of witnesses to a transfer she wanted everyone to believe had already occurred. Naomi read the remarks in her office and placed them beside Dana's emails to the rehabilitation center. She is trying to create consent after the conduct, she said. Would a speech change the trust? No, but your public agreement could complicate the story, especially with relatives and a lender in the room. Then I will not give her speech. Do not tell her that yet. The event was scheduled for 9 days later. Waiting that long would not waive my rights, but it gave Naomi time to prepare notices correctly, and Marcus time to preserve the remaining evidence. Both Dana and Trevor would be present at the same address with witnesses. Neither could later claim that the documents had gone to the wrong person. The party also gave my children a reason to continue speaking. Dana invited relatives, neighbors, real estate agents, contractors, and potential clients. She asked Sylvia to attend as proof that the existing tenant supported the transition. A loan broker connected to the suspended refinance application remained on the guest list, apparently because Dana believed my appearance would resolve the signature problem. Trevor sent contractors a renovation preview showing Unit A with an expanded office suite and the garage converted into a project showroom. A second phase proposed higher-end finishes for Unit B after Sylvia's tenancy ended. The drawings identified Dana as property director and Trevor's company as exclusive construction manager. Neither title existed. Marcus sent a second written directive prohibiting additional work. When one of Trevor's flooring suppliers called to confirm delivery, Marcus notified the company that no authorized renovation contract existed. The delivery was cancelled before more material entered the garage. The rent system was secured under Moss Property Services. Sylvia's held payment moved into the controlled account. Future payment instructions were confirmed in writing, and Trevor's business account was formally rejected as an unauthorized destination. The title alert remained active, preventing any lender or closing service from treating Dana's beneficiary summary as present authority. My children still occupied Unit A. That fact required process, not theater. Naomi prepared separate notices terminating Dana's and Trevor's temporary occupancy. She also drafted demands for the return of my property, a full accounting of any money collected or requested, preservation of documents, and restoration of unauthorized alterations. A civil claim for damages would remain available if they refused to reimburse the trust. The papers did not order them into the street that night. They provided the legally required notice period. If they failed to leave, we would seek possession through court. The party corrects the lie, Naomi said. It does not replace the legal process. Marcus arranged for a neutral process witness and prepared identical document packets. He would deliver them personally after Dana finished telling the family that I had given the house away. I asked whether that timing made the notices look vindictive. You did not choose the audience, Naomi said. Dana invited them to witness a transfer that never happened. You are entitled to correct the ownership claim before it causes more harm. There was one more decision that could not wait for the party. When Marian and I created the trust, Dana and Trevor were named as successor co-trustees. If I died or became unable to serve, they would eventually control the property together before distributing it under the trust terms. Their conduct had shown me what they would do with that control. Removing their names was not as easy emotionally as it was legally. I remembered the afternoon Marian and I first selected them as successor trustees. Dana had recently earned her real estate license. Trevor had completed his first major renovation job. We believed their different skills would balance each other. Marian asked Naomi's predecessor whether naming both children might create conflict. He said shared authority worked when the children understood that the property existed to serve the trust, not their private businesses. At the time, I could not imagine needing to say that aloud. For years, the successor trustee page had felt like proof that Marian and I had raised two capable adults. Changing it meant admitting that capability without boundaries could become another form of danger. Naomi did not tell me to disinherit them out of anger. She asked what Marian and I had intended the trust to protect. The duplex was supposed to keep the family stable, I said, not become collateral for Trevor's debt or an office Dana could award herself. Then separate future benefit from future control. I amended the trust. Dana and Trevor were removed as successor trustees. A licensed professional fiduciary would manage the trust if I could no longer serve. Neither child could mortgage the duplex, direct its sale, appoint a property manager, or use it as security for personal obligations. I did not use my grandchildren as punishment. Future family benefits would pass through protected descendant trusts administered independently. Dana and Trevor retained only conditional beneficial interests after my death, subject to restitution and the trust's restrictions. They would not control the property or raid it for business debt. The amendment did not take away anything they owned. They owned nothing in the duplex while I was alive. It removed the authority I had once planned to give them later. I signed each page in Naomi's office with Marian's blue-ribboned key resting beside my hand. Being named after me in the trust did not make you owners, I said. It made you people I once intended to trust. Naomi looked at the signature, then at me. Are you certain? I was certain when they changed the locks. The clearest proof that Dana knew the difference between present and future ownership arrived 2 days later. One of my cousins forwarded a message she had sent to several relatives. Dana had attached a photograph of one page from the trust. The visible section stated that the duplex would be divided equally between Dana Moss Riley and Trevor Moss. The image began halfway down the page. The line immediately above the crop read, "Upon the death of Frederick Moss." Dana had not summarized the trust badly. She had positioned the camera so the condition disappeared, while the 50-50 distribution remained. Naomi enlarged the image and compared the page marks to the original. The same indentation and paragraph number continued above the crop. Anyone viewing the full page would understand that no present transfer existed. You did not misunderstand the trust, I said quietly. You cropped the sentence. That line would stay with me until I could say it to her face. The cousin's message included Dana's explanation that the family had accelerated a transfer already required by the trust. She wrote that my mobility decline made immediate stewardship necessary, and that I had accepted the arrangement after an emotional adjustment period. She had turned my refusal into confusion, my silence into consent, and my future estate plan into a present deed. Sylvia received the same trust image with her invitation. She brought a printed copy to Marcus. "Dana wants me there so I can say the rental transition has been smooth," she said. "Will you attend?" I asked. "Yes, but I will not say that." Sylvia agreed to serve as a witness concerning Trevor's payment instructions and his claim to be the new owner. She would bring only the messages sent directly to her. Naomi made clear that Sylvia did not need to search their rooms, record private conversations, or confront anyone alone. "You have already done enough," I told her. "Marion gave me a fair home for 17 years, she said. "I can tell the truth in one room." While Naomi prepared the legal record, Marcus prepared the practical return. Using the original floor plan and Dr. Ross's recommendations, he obtained estimates for 2 grab bars, a shower seat, improved stair rails, and removal of the threshold that caught the front wheel of my walker. Final measurements would wait until we regained possession. No contractor would enter Unit A without lawful access. The work would cost less than $4,000. Dana had used my safety to justify removing a bedroom and turning the house into offices. The changes I actually needed would take 2 workers less than 2 days. My physical recovery continued in the furnished apartment. I practiced with a cane each morning and used the walker only for longer distances. Dr. Ross told me not to let the dispute push me faster than my hip could manage. "Returning home is a decision," she said. "It should not become a performance of strength for your children." She was right. I did not need to walk through the door without support to prove the house remained mine. 3 days before the party, Trevor called to ask if I had reconsidered the equity loan. "The broker will be there," he said. "No one expects you to sign anything complicated. We can explain the structure in person. At the housewarming, it is a convenient time. The family will understand why the improvements matter. And your company debt. The loan stabilizes the contractor responsible for the property. That benefits everyone." He had repeated the idea often enough to believe it. Dana called the next day to confirm my transportation from Brookhaven. I told her I had arranged my own ride. "You are not still in that temporary apartment, are you? I am somewhere safe." She heard what she wanted. "Good. I knew you would settle once the pressure was gone." The pressure, in her version, was my insistence on living in my own home. On the morning of the party, I removed the brass key from the bedside table. I cleaned the old tag with a dry cloth but left the blue ribbon exactly as Marion had tied it. Beside it, Naomi placed the amendment in Dr. Ross's letter and the full uncropped page Dana had photographed. Marcus carried the 2 formal notice packets. We did not bring police officers. We did not bring movers. We brought documents, an authorized managing agent, and the key my children believed they had made meaningless. Before leaving Naomi's office, we reviewed the sequence one final time. Marcus would identify himself as the managing agent and deliver the notices. Naomi would explain the trust and the amended succession provisions. Dr. Ross's signed statement would answer Dana's medical claim. Sylvia would speak only to the payment instructions she personally received. The suspended loan file and Trevor's invoice would remain in their original form. No one would announce that Dana and Trevor were being evicted immediately. The notices provided time to leave and instructions for preserving their belongings. If they refused, the next audience would be a judge, not another family gathering. Naomi also insisted that the younger grandchildren not remain in Unit A during service. Sylvia confirmed that Kyle's sister had already taken them to a nearby park after the family photographs. Whatever their parents had done, the children would not be used as shields or made to watch the legal confrontation. "This is not a spectacle," Naomi said. "Dana made it one. Then our job is to end the spectacle with facts." By late afternoon, cars lined both sides of Moss Street. Through the front windows, I could see people standing where my bed had once been. Dana's property sign had been moved near the entrance. Trevor's renovation boards occupied the wall beside Marian's missing dresser. Sylvia sent Marcus a short message from inside. Donna is beginning her speech. We waited near the gate. Through the open window, I heard my daughter welcome the family, the neighbors, and her professional guests. Dad finally understood that a home should evolve with the family, she said. He has chosen a safer living arrangement and trusted us to carry Moss House into its next chapter. People applauded. Trevor began describing the renovation, the expected increase in value, and the financing that would make it possible. He spoke about Unit B as though Sylvia's 17 years there were a scheduling obstacle. The loan broker stood near the presentation boards. Kyle poured drinks in the kitchen Marian had chosen. Donna believed the party would prove the property had passed to the next generation. Outside the front door, the managing agent was holding 2 notices, and the landlord was standing beside him. Marcus rang the doorbell while Trevor was explaining how much my house would be worth after he finished spending its equity. The conversation inside stopped. Footsteps crossed the floor, and Dana opened the door with a welcoming smile, prepared for another potential client. The smile changed when she saw Marcus, Naomi, and me. Dad, she said, you should have called. We would have arranged transportation. You invited me. Her eyes moved to the document packets in Marcus's hands. What is this? Marcus answered before I did. I'm here on behalf of the landlord. Dana gave a short laugh and glanced back at the guests, watching from the living room. This property is owned by our family trust. I stepped beside Marcus, using my cane in one hand and holding Marian's brass key in the other. She is right. It belongs to the trust. She is wrong about who controls it. Donna lowered her voice. Do not create a scene. I heard your speech from the gate. The scene had already started. She could not keep her guest of honor on the porch without exposing the lie immediately. She stepped aside. I entered the home for the first time since my discharge. The charcoal walls looked darker beneath the showroom lights. Dana's property sign stood where Marian's dresser had once been. Trevor's renovation boards covered the wall that had held our family photographs. A table near the kitchen displayed brochures for luxury rentals and a preliminary financing chart. The rooms were familiar in their dimensions and foreign in every detail. Someone had removed the worn runner Marian chose for the hallway. The blue mug Trevor held on the day of my discharge now sat beside the drink station with a paper label for donations. Even the small marks on the kitchen doorframe, where we had measured Dana and Trevor as children, had been covered with fresh paint. I had expected anger when I crossed the threshold. What I felt was displacement. My children had not merely occupied the rooms. They had staged them to suggest that the life before their arrival had already been cleared away. I tightened my hand around the cane and continued toward the guests. I had not come to reclaim the house by standing in it. I had come to establish the process by which I would return. My relatives watched me cross the room. Several looked toward the cane, then toward Dana, as though trying to reconcile my presence with the story that I had been placed in assisted living. Trevor set down his presentation remote. What are they doing here? Marcus represents the property owner, I said. Naomi represents me. We are the owners. Naomi opened the original trust to its first page. The Moss Family Revocable Living Trust owns the duplex. Frederick Moss is the settler sole trustee and lifetime beneficiary. No deed, assignment, or trustee appointment has transferred control to Dana or Trevor. Trevor pointed toward the page Dana had shown the family. It says the property is divided between us. 50-50. After I die, I said. You were so impatient you stopped reading before the sentence ended. Naomi placed the full page beside Dana's cropped photograph. The paragraph began with 5 words missing from the image she had circulated. Upon the death of Frederick Moss, Donna crossed her arms. I sent them the relevant section. Everyone understands how family trusts work. No, I said. You counted on them not understanding. You did not misunderstand the trust. You cropped the sentence. One of my cousins took out her phone and compared the two versions. A neighbor who had congratulated Dana on the transfer moved away from the office display. Dana tried to recover the room. Dad was always going to leave this property to us. We only accelerated management because his medical team agreed that returning here was unsafe. Naomi removed Dr. Ross's letter from the file. She read the conclusion aloud. I had demonstrated the ability to live independently with temporary mobility support and minor accessibility adjustments. Assisted living had not been medically required. The rehabilitation center also preserved Dana's emails, Naomi said. The statement that the medical team agreed Mr. Moss should not return came from Dana, not from his physician. Dana looked at me rather than Naomi. You could barely stand on the porch. That did not give you authority to choose where I would live. We were trying to keep you safe. You did not move in because I could not return. You told people I could not return because you wanted to move in. The distinction settled over the room more heavily than an accusation of greed. Dana had built her entire defense around concern. Dr. Ross's letter did not prove she felt nothing for me. It proved she had used cunts to remove my voice from the decision. Marcus laid the temporary caretaker occupancy agreement on the table. Both of their signatures appeared at the bottom. Their initials ran beside every restriction. This agreement ended when Frederick was discharged, he said. It prohibited changing locks, altering rooms, moving his belongings, collecting rent, and representing yourselves as owners. Treva looked toward Kyle. The locks needed to be secured. Marcus placed still images from the exterior camera beside the agreement. They showed Trevor arriving with replacement hardware and directing the locksmith while the original lock was still functioning. You changed the locks 12 days after the surgery, Marcus said. No defect was reported. Trevor's face tightened. I was managing the property. No owner, trustee, or authorized agent appointed you. Sylvia stepped forward from beside the hallway. She carried the emails Trevor had sent directly to her. You told me to send my rent to this account, she said. Trevor glanced at the routing page. That was the family property account. It belonged to your construction company, Marcus said. The money was going to be used for the duplex. No legitimate rent entered that account. Sylvia refused the instruction and placed her payment into the authorized system. Sylvia showed Dana's email offering her an early move-out arrangement and describing Unit B as part of a luxury repositioning. I have lived next door to Frederick for 17 years, she said. Neither of you asked what my lease allowed. You spoke as though I had already agreed to leave. Dana's professional guests began studying the floor rather than her display boards. Trevor moved toward his renovation presentation. Whatever mistakes were made with the paperwork, the improvements increased the value of the property. My company has invested months of work. Marcus opened the inspection report. It showed my dismantled bed, the converted bedroom, business materials in the garage, warped interior doors, and Marion's damaged dresser. Then he placed Trevor's invoice beside it, $96,400. This includes charges for work the agreement prohibited, Marcus said. It also includes storage costs for property removed without Frederick's consent and management fees no one authorized. The trust has not approved this invoice. It reserves the right to seek restoration costs from you. Trevor looked at me. You would make your own son pay for improving your house. You used my house to improve your company. The loan broker near the presentation table quietly closed his folder. Naomi asked him to confirm the status of the proposed $420,000 loan. He cleared his throat. The lender suspended the file during title review. No funds were approved or disbursed. The sole trustee's verified signature would be required before the duplex could secure any loan. Did you receive my signature? I asked. No. Then there is no financing. That is correct. Naomi confirmed that a title alert remained active and that the application had been formally withdrawn on my instructions. The equity Trevor planned to use for his debt had never left the property. Dana looked from the loan broker to our relatives. We were preparing the house for its future. You removed me from its present. You were going to leave it to us. The trust named you after me. You tried to make that mean instead of me. Naomi opened the amended trust. She explained that Dana and Trevor were no longer successor trustees. If I could not serve, a professional fiduciary would manage the property. Neither child could mortgage it, appoint themselves manager, use it for business collateral, or control future family distributions. Protected descendant trusts would preserve benefits for the generation without giving Dana or Trevor authority over the duplex. Dana's face lost the careful calm she had maintained. You're taking our inheritance. No, I am protecting my property from people who tried to inherit it early. You are punishing our children. Your children are protected. What you lost was control. Marcus handed one notice packet to Dana and the other to Trevor. The neutral witness recorded the date and time of service. The notices terminated their temporary occupancy and required them to leave after the legally specified period. They ordered preservation of my property, stopped further alterations, demanded an accounting, and provided a process for resolving restoration costs. Trevor stared at his packet. You are throwing us out tonight? No, Naomi said. Read the notice. You have the required period to vacate. If you refuse, possession will be decided through the court process. No one is changing the locks around you this evening. I placed Marion's old key on the table beside the caretaker agreement. You changed the locks because you thought that made you owners, I said. It only made you tenants who forgot the lease. Dana looked around at the relatives, neighbors, and professional contacts she had invited. You are humiliating us in front of everyone. You invited everyone here to celebrate a transfer that never happened. I am only correcting the address. No one applauded. The party did not need a winner. The loan broker left first. Contractors collected their presentation folders. My relatives spoke quietly as they moved toward the door. Kyle removed the gold housewarming sign before the last guests reached the sidewalk. My children had invited the family to celebrate receiving my home. They ended the party holding notices that reminded them I had never stopped owning it. I did not remain in Unit A after the guests left. Dana still possessed the premises during the notice period, and I would not undermine the same process I expected her to follow. As Naomi and Marcus prepared to leave, Dana stood beside the open front door with her notice folded against her chest. If this is really your house, why are you walking away again? She asked. Because ownership is not permission to ignore the law. You expect us to sleep here after this? I expected to sleep here after surgery. You made another arrangement. Trevor asked whether he could continue using the garage while they searched for space. Marcus told him the notice prohibited new business deliveries and required existing commercial materials to be removed through the documented move-out process. I picked up Marion's old key from the table and returned to the furnished apartment. The lock still did not accept it. That night, however, the key no longer felt like proof that I had been defeated. It rested beside 2 signed notices and a title record my children could not rewrite. Dana and Trevor did not leave Unit A immediately. They used most of the notice period. Trevor disputed the restoration estimate, and Dana asked Naomi twice whether a beneficiary could block my managing agent appointment. The answer remained. When their deadline approached, they agreed to vacate rather than force a possession case. Marcus supervised the move with an inventory clerk. Their belongings were protected. Mine were returned from storage and documented one item at a time. The dispute over damages took several more months. Trevor withdrew his $96,000 invoice. His company paid part of the restoration cost through a settlement, while Dana reimbursed a portion of the storage and moving expenses. The trust reserved claims for several damaged items, but I chose settlement over another year of litigation. The refinance was cancelled permanently. The title alert remained in place. Moss Property Services continued managing the duplex, and Sylvia remained in Unit B under her existing lease. 7 months after the housewarming, I returned to Unit A. The charcoal paint was gone. My bedroom was pale green again, not because the color could bring Marion back, but because I had chosen it. A carpenter repaired her dresser as well as the split wood allowed. Marcus installed the grab bars, shower seat, improved railings, and lower threshold recommended by Dr. Ross. The inventory process recovered nearly everything placed in storage. Some photograph frames were cracked, several books had absorbed moisture, and one box of Marion's handwritten tenant ledgers had been mislabeled beneath Trevor's business records. Marcus found it before the storage account was closed. We did not restore the house into a museum. I donated furniture I no longer needed and moved my bedroom to the quieter room near the bathroom. The difference was that each change happened with my knowledge and consent. No one described my preferences as evidence that I was incapable of having them. The safety work took 2 days. Donna visited a month after I returned. She apologized for changing the locks and moving my belongings. Then she said she still believed assisted living would have been safer. Safety is something you discuss with the person living the life, I told her. It is not a reason to take the life away from him. She asked whether she could have an emergency key again. Not yet. Trevor came separately. His business was still struggling. And he asked whether he could use the garage for storage until he recovered. You had access when I believed you understood the difference between helping me and replacing me. He said he understood now. I told him understanding would be measured through restitution and time, not another promise made beside my front door. I did not end contact with either child. We met for meals away from the duplex. Financial matters passed through Marcus and Naomi. Neither child stayed in Unit A, handled rent, held a spare key, or made decisions about the trust. If we rebuilt a relationship, it would have to exist without my property holding it together. In the hallway, I placed Marion's old brass key inside a small glass frame. The blue ribbon remained tied around it, and the faded tag still carried her words, "One door for us. One door to keep us free." The new key hung beside it. Sylvia noticed the frame when she came over for coffee. "Why keep a key that no longer opens the door?" she asked. "Because it still opens the part of the house they could never take." Dana and Trevor changed the locks because they believed ownership began when an old man became inconvenient. Marion and I had bought the duplex, so no one else could decide where we belonged. The locks were new. The answer was still the same. I lived there because I chose to. If your own children changed the locks while you were recovering and tried to keep you in assisted living so they could take over your home, would you ever give them another key? Or did they lose their place in the house the moment they decided your inheritance mattered more than your return?